This is a useless build, and I'm using it as an excuse to discuss Echoes, Final Shape, and the upcoming Revenant. The reason the build is useless is because it heavily relies on the seasonal artifact that's going away. I'll play it in the background and prioritize the seasonal discussion. With that in mind, I'll put a table of contents to skip to right here in case you're invested in one topic or another. Or if you're not interested in any of this, hey, I get it. Thanks for watching, and I appreciate you nonetheless. The Final Shape, and Echoes by extension, was one of my favorite seasons of the game in terms of density of content. Was it without issue? Absolutely not. It had quite a few problems, and I wanted to talk about those, but also give credit where credit is due. The Pale Heart is gorgeous. I couldn't help but admire it whenever I passed through. I think this expansion was genuinely worth the time and effort I put into it, and while some content was stilted, it was, overall, excellent. As opposed to Lightfall, where my main point of interest was how much fun Strand was. Overthrow gets boring, but it's an easy to complete activity with methods to make it faster by camping specific events to rush it. We weren't lacking for exotic missions. Cooperative focus missions felt a little crazy as a duo and fun as a trio. Dual Destiny was incredible, and I highly recommend doing it at least once or twice. They were a bit grindy or buggy after the first few times, though. The raid is absolutely beautiful. It feels good to learn the mechanics and understand it. I do believe Verity, while a really cool encounter, will end up being what stops this raid from being completed by most people. I do recommend giving the raid a try or finding a Sherpa for it. Read up on it, try to understand what you can, and take it one encounter at a time. As for the seasonal content, it did not disappoint me. I know a lot of people don't care about the story. I'm iffy. I like a lot of the broad strokes, but feel it was wasted on the interpersonal stuff. A lower stakes setup season felt like a good idea to me. Don't know about the execution, but let's skip over this. Look at the content we got. Multiple distinct battlegrounds leading into each other. With prior seasons, we had pretty consistent final arenas, often the exact same arena with different bosses. Heist Battlegrounds, Psyops both finished with a very similar final boss with very similar mechanics. To me, this season's Battleground was much better for enjoying the difference between them and felt like Bungie achieved what they were going for. The seasonal activity, Breach Executable, was less noticeably different, more of the same pattern of content, but still held up reasonably well. Short enough not to outstay its welcome and not overwhelmingly frustrating the majority of the time with good rewards. Enigma Protocol was similar, a fast mission giving good loot, not difficult to complete after shooting the security nodes. I enjoyed running against the timer. I still have huge issues with the exotic mission, but it was still a really fun mission the first time. Figuring out where to put the pieces wasn't exactly complex, but it was entertaining enough playing with the landscape. The mission itself felt good. The secrets felt fun, and it was rewarding to do. I'll pick it apart in the negative section. Chase weapons were amazing. Dealer's Choice feels great with 3 Pale Heart weapons equipped. The Call is great on its own, No Hesitation is a great support tool, False Idols and Promemoria are both good heavies. Ergo Sum with Art Conductor or Caster Perfect 5th feel solid in difficult content. Kvostov shreds through ads, and Still Hunt is Still Hunt. The raid weapons were also all hits. Chaos Reshaped is a crazy perk, Critical Anomaly as a chill clip sniper, Non-Denouement, a Volt Shot bow, Imminence for just having amazing consistent perks, Forthcoming Defiance as a glaive with high handling and excellent perk selection, Summum Bonum as our first Waveframe legendary sword, and Nullify as one of the best pulse rifles in the game. Seasonal weapons were mostly hits too. Sightline Survey is good if you don't have Posterity. Time-Worn Wayfarer, Lost Signal, Chronophage, and Faithkeeper are good enough, giving some options. Then the big ones. Aberrant Action, Martyr's Retribution, Corrasion, and Ill Omen, which just knock everything out of the park. Stellar. I was extremely happy with the selection of weapons and was surprised at just how many were viable. Compare these weapons to, say, Beyond Light or Witch Queen or Lightfall, where many of the new non-raid weapons were alright at best but not incredible. There's both a good variety and accessible method of acquisition for the Echoes weapons, which I was appreciative of. Prismatic feels good. It feels good to play with light and dark bars for builds and pop Transcendence and have fun. It feels great to play with for so many abilities and really enjoy myself. I like making different builds, and the feeling of having a solid toolkit with clear methods of sustain and power spikes made me happy. I would still rate it as less fun than Strand, but damn, it's fun to play. Okay, negatives. Busywork. I play this game to have fun. I don't enjoy things being locked behind walls. This is one of the first seasons where I did not finish the story on multiple characters, and as of writing this, have not finished it on the character I started it with. The amount of Busywork spaced out felt atrocious. I didn't get access to Battlegrounds on my other characters. I didn't get the exotic mission on them. I didn't want to go through the entire quest line and go through the drama again, doing the same work again. The act structure made the situation feel worse, not better, because I'd come back and have the same stuff to do the next week. My first time through Encore was great, fun, and I didn't run into any of the glitches. But you know the feeling when you're doing something and then you get told to do it? Suddenly what was entertaining the first time became a chore to complete. Do it again. And again. Why do I have to do this relatively long mission for the third time with minor changes made to it? And I have other complaints about it. Encore is big, but so much of it feels like dead space you can't really skip through very well. Space you're waiting to push through because you're waiting for something or other. Grabbing and dunking the nodes starts feeling like you're waiting for it to finish. It's something I feel is not unique to Encore but happens with Star-Crossed and Seraph's Shield. The mechanics work against it feeling fun to do repeatedly because they start feeling like stumbling blocks rather than a challenge. The most fun in Encore to me was being chased by the death wall, which then became less fun with the glitch wiping out the entire team if you went too fast and got out. In my opinion, most content should be amazing the first time, an experience to go through, and then on subsequent times, you should be able to blitz them if you want, or lead friends through for their first time. Here is where Encore, Star-Crossed, and Seraph's Shield fail. They do not reward mastery, and the more you do them, the more the mechanics presented feel like stumbling blocks as opposed to a reward for good execution. The more you need to engage with the building mechanics of Encore, the more they feel slow and like they are holding you back from getting to the traversal and combat. Furthermore, they feel like they are harming interactions with getting other players into the mission for a couple of reasons which I'd like to outline. Older missions like 0 Hour and Whisper have majority traversal and combat sections. You can go fast and assist allies in these activities by showing routes, or go ahead to start combat sections. What I'd like to get at here is someone going ahead and starting up a combat section doesn't necessarily deprive the rest of the team of enjoying or being frustrated by the traversal, and can in fact assist allies with it. Going slower means you might show up to a fight later, but you also feel like you're the reinforcements, the cavalry there to help out. And when you learn the mission and go faster, it feels like you're blitzing through it. When you teach other people, you can assist them by hitting switches to give them a hand up. These missions end up feeling like you can get good at them, but also aren't necessarily forcing other people through it. Conversely, several sections of the newer exotic missions feel as if you are dragging people through, and there is not really a method to streamline it beyond executing the mechanics as quickly as the interaction allows. I don't want to engage with a mission because it doesn't really feel like it's good to be good at it. This makes the mission feel like Busywork and more annoying the more you're pushed into doing it. You have to go through the same tutorial about the same mechanics you already know how to do. A lot of Destiny, and why Destiny is fun to me, is because I enjoy playing the game, using the guns, and feeling like I'm improving at it. When this doesn't happen and I'm forced to go through the motions, it feels like my time isn't being respected. Crafting. Crafting is good. Crafting has some negative knock-on effects on the rest of the game, but these are much better than the alternative. Destiny is a very, very big game. It has a lot of different weapons, and a lot of people have favorites. I have favorites. I have an old Calisea Noblesse Disruption Break roll from Crown of Sorrows, and this paired with Izanagi's Burden felt incredible. I loved it. I have old and odd rolls I thought might come in handy, and they did. I'd love to say, yeah, I love these guns, you should give them a try. This roll feels great. But here's the catch. Not everyone entered the game at the same time I did. Not everyone saw these rolls and thought, that might be useful later, and kept it in their vault like the deranged hoarder that I am. Even just this season, getting a god roll of a reprised dawn weapon is a 1 in 36 chance of getting a 2 out of 5 roll. You can get a couple double perk rolls by doing Enigma Protocol once a week, or you can repeat the same run and receive a unintended double perk drop multiple times in a row by not completing it. But this is 2 layers of RNG. You have a 1 in 5 chance of getting the desired weapon you want, which could have the desired perks you want. And this is the only way you can get double perks. The RNG here is worse than actually focusing the weapon unless you want multiple of the reprised weapons. And let's say you want a 4 out of 5 or a 5 out of 5 roll. And you get this, but somewhere down the line, a different roll on the weapon gets buffed. A roll you can't get anymore unless you want to grind an exotic mission like Starcrossed or Seraph Shield, where you'd be beset by the same levels of RNG, except worse. As many people discovered this season, newer exotic missions are miserable to run multiple times in a row, and all the extra goodies you would have gotten originally will have been taken out. Why is the incentive to purchase DLC made into a suffering machine where you can't get the desired rolls you want without slamming your head against the wall for them? Why can't we get the chance to find a gun we really adore and play with it? Or poke through the crafted weapon closet to check out an older weapon and find a new favorite? That's where crafting is so beneficial. It's created less strain on vault space, it's created less strain to keep multiple potential god rolls for different situations. It's pushed towards the ability to actually use the guns and play the game rather than grinding for them, especially when content is removed on a regular basis or made harder to grind. Speaking of which, why is it made harder to grind? Have you tried to get drops from any of the old exotic missions? If I was missing 3 guns from a prior mission, I'd just give up trying to get them. You need to run the mission to get your weekly red border, and then get chances of getting the gun you want from the season. That's not just bad, that's worse than playing Onslaught as it is now. If I was a newer player who really wanted Austringer, I'd have to throw myself at Presage and run it God knows how many times. It doesn't feel rewarding, it feels like scraping the barrel for engagement. Why aren't those missions loot showers to reward people who purchased the content, giving them the weapons to have fun with? Why isn't Onslaught buffed near the end of seasons to have double or triple drop rates to help people get their preferred god rolls? These don't feel like catch-up mechanics so much as another place Bungie has forgotten about and left to the wayside. You had to be there shouldn't lead to I wish you'd been there, because you can't get this anymore without grinding an exotic mission or stripped down activity a mind-numbing amount of times. I do not have faith in catch-up mechanics because I was around when Sunsetting launched, and Xenoclass was released with 12 perks in each column and no means of focusing it. No chance of double perks or triple perks. Originally, Last Wish weapons had 4 perks in each column. Nightfall weapons too. Look at these weapons. We already have world drops as chase weapons. We already have good tools to get good weapons. Making people's lives easier coincides with allowing people to play the game with the cool guns they want to enjoy. I do not have faith in the reduction of crafting because I have been in the mines attempting to get a god roll. I do not have faith in the reduction of crafting because I have 41 Ergosumes and 69 total exotic class items. Crafting is both a convenience and a tool necessary to get through the amount of content Destiny has built up. Raid Adept weapons are great in their implementation in how they allow you to change the barrel and mag, and how they allow you to get multiple perks in each column. Is it worse for the game to have crafting in it? Sure, it makes it easier to stop grinding, but I have sat at Templar farming guns and spoils. That's not really fun. People rotating in and out, getting their god rolls as you don't? Or how about trying to get the perfect Adept Trials weapon, or a specific Iron Banner weapon like Kinetic Tremors Attrition Orbs Multi-Mock? Why? I don't want to pull the slot machine to get the guns, I want to go use them in a GM. I enjoy playing Destiny for Destiny and want to be able to say, yeah, get this gun, grab it and play with it, it'll be so much fun. It's one of my favorite weapons this year, here's where you get it, here's the role you want, go spend an hour or so earning it so you can enjoy it for as long as you'd like. Prismatic Consecration Titan. Why? Okay, so in my opinion, power needs to come with some level of cost in Destiny. You have a power spike ability, it needs to have a detriment or a cooldown or a downside. A lot of Prismatic has circumvented this, and Prismatic as a whole has power creep issues, but part of the reason Prismatic Titan defaults to a very singular build is because the singular build is so dominant it pushes out any other potential competition. Examine how Solar Titan needs to play to do this. It only has one charge. In order to get cooldown and sustain, it needs to give up some damage for Soul Invictus instead of Roaring Flames. It doesn't have Frost Armor or Void Overshields, it only has Resto 1 from a healing grenade. If it wants more damage reduction or better sustain, it has to give up benefits elsewhere or needs to dip into exotic weaponry to assist. Or perhaps Monte Carlo for cooldown. Or it needs to lose damage for survivability by removing Synthos or Worm Gods. Prismatic Titan is able to run whatever exotic weapon is necessary to deal with precision targets. It does not require help with keeping its cooldowns as long as it is capable of keeping up Transcendence. It has multiple charges on Consecration, allowing it to spam and mop up multiple spawns without issue. Consecration will also shred through champions as long as there are 3 enemies near. Because of Heart of Inmost Light, it allows you to have cooldowns pretty consistently as well. Look at what Strand Titan requires even with Banner of War. It has a single target into cone attack with grapple and requires exotic investment along with a 1-2 punch shotgun. The attack itself does not give health back even on kill and requires an orb pickup. Banner health gains are incremental, not immediate, and do not cause health regen to start, which Knockout will do this upcoming season. It has good resists via Woven Mail, but the grapple itself does not give additional resists and it requires weapon investment and execution. Furthermore, how do you balance Prismatic Consecration? How do you implement balance around it if it is not nerfed? The answer is any balance around Consecration instead of nerfing it will result in hurting the viability of other melee or short-ranged builds. It will make this build the only build by virtue of it being the baseline all other builds are held to. It will result in enemies more capable of deleting us or shredding through our defenses. Any buffs will also buff it. If everything is buffed around it, then we run into the issue of having the same problem all over again where content is too easy to destroy. And finally, this goes back to the mastery aspect. The build feels like it has a very large pair of hammers it uses to smash all of its issues. There's very little nuance to the build, there are no intricate pieces to how it works. It doesn't feel like it has a high skill ceiling or floor, and I don't mean this in an exclusionary way. I mean, I cannot teach people situational tools and where this build functions to deal with issues. You smash them all and you're done. If there's something you cannot smash, you throw axes at it and shoot it with your other guns. Part of Destiny for me is the thrill of getting interplay between pieces of the build and how allies can support each other. I like making builds to help people out or to mesh with other builds I've made because team play feels really cool to me. Some of my favorite memories of Destiny are in old Lake of Shadows hurling smoke bombs to give stealth to a Titan as they hurled their hammer at a soon-to-be deleted target. The team play of vastly different specializations causing a more cohesive, amazing feeling whole. That's lost when everyone just runs Consecration Titan and blows through everything. I'm not saying there hasn't been times like this in the past, like Xeno Galahorn or even Banner of War with Navigator, but at least with Banner of War at the top end, it felt like you were a bullet being fired at problems, frantic and badass. Whereas this kind of feels like cheat codes. Enemies. The new enemies are a pain in high-level content. I'm not a huge fan of the majority of them because I don't like anti-melee enemies. I like aggressive play. I feel it's where Destiny shines as a game in the best way. I'm not a huge fan of the homing shots on Grims or their yell making even supers feel impotent. I don't like Dustfield Shanks and their slow or explosion on death. New Signs seem to have a ton of damage alongside their crowd control, particularly hellish on day 1. Subjugators are okay, but their ranged non-CC attacks seem poorly tuned on high difficulty. Like they'll one-shot through even a couple layers of damage reduction. Otherwise, fine. Anyway, that's about it. Thanks for sticking through it. If you want to know what I'm planning next, it's actually Fallen Sunstar and Ballador's Wrathweavers, unless someone hits me with an idea overriding them entirely. The new Titan exotic looked pretty cool too. It feels awkward saying like and subscribe for more content after 10 plus minutes of complaining, but yeah. Thanks again for listening, and have a good one.